All right, welcome to this week's office hours. We're coming at you live. A lot of changes, which is good. Casey, how you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Yeah, glad to be back from jury duty over here doing my civil duties. So yeah, it's good to be back on. Excited to dive into it with some folks today.
Yeah, I had a more exciting period of time than your jury duty. Decided to go down to the Miami Seller Conference this past weekend, which was absolutely incredible. Uh, Funny enough, I've been in the space almost a decade, and I can count the number of events in person I've gone to on one hand and
Hmm.
not even fill up that hand.
Yeah.
So, going in, I was like, man, what's this going to be like? No idea. And it was just so much energy. I lost my voice night one in like 4 hours. Woke up Saturday morning. It was back. And then I spoke nonstop. Honestly, I talked with people from 8 in the morning till midnight that night. And about 11:50, my voice just plummeted and just like nothing would come out. I was like, well, that's my cue to go to bed. So so that's what I did. But it was amazing. Got to speak to people that I've known for years, and finally meet in person, like Larry Lebarsky. I've known him for years, and like I actually got to see him. He's incredibly tall, by the way. I like walked in, I was like, "Good Lord," uh, just amazing human beings. The guys, Eric and Sebastian from Amazon Lit were there speaking. Reezy, who was rocking his Aura shirt the whole weekend. Chris Grant, who was also rocking his shirt the whole weekend. I realized halfway through, I only brought 7 shirts, by the way. I brought 2 for me and a few more for Reezy and for Chris Grant. And we actually gave away our extras because there was so much demand for Aura shirts that we're like, oh man, I didn't even think about it, which was fantastic. It was so amazing to see really have people come up that are like, hey, I've been using Aura for 4 years and we've never talked. Like, this is amazing. One guy said, his name was Max, said, Aura is the iPhone of repricers. How amazing is that? And I had to track him down. I was like, all right, where's this guy? I got to say, hey, we ended up having lunch together. And also having so many people pull me aside and say, hey, I'm leaving this other company and I want to come over to Aura. So a lot of new users coming from that weekend, a lot of new partners coming from that weekend, which is phenomenal. A lot of people saying, hey, listen, I've been hearing some amazing things. Can we talk? Absolutely. Hence why I lost my voice. It's still a little deep right now. It's slowly coming back. Lots and lots of tea, that's for sure. But if you're thinking about going to these events, even small ones, Miami Seller Conference wasn't massive. It was, I think, about 200-ish people, still
Mhm.
pretty sizable. But even these small get-togethers, these small meetups are scenarios that you learn so much. You meet new people. You get to network in a way that everybody's just openly sharing. It's such an abundance mindset where it's just like, I'll give you everything.
Mhm.
There is no, hey, I can't really talk about that. Everything's on the table. And so, yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. Avery, Romer the Romer, hosted this, as well as with Taylor, and just an awesome, awesome event. Big shout out to Kate, who really helps with the logistics and managing things for the event. She crushed that. Oh my gosh. We'll also be at the Proven Conference, so we'll have 3 of us from the team going to the Proven Conference here in May. We're actually sponsoring it, so that's gonna be incredible. So if you're thinking about going, please go so we can hang out with you. Um, so yeah, it was just a whirlwind. It was nonstop. Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. But great stuff. A lot of learnings coming out of that, just in terms of how people are doing OA, how people are scaling. A lot of deep dives into fee structures and hacking that, and of course, a lot of focus on building out the company, right? Like hiring people, VAs, stuff like that. Um, so just yeah, never. And honestly, I didn't even get to see many of the presentations because every time I would sit down, I'd have either a group of people or one person be like, "Hey, can we jump into the hallway? I want to talk about Aura." I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." So every time I would sit down, I get pulled back up. So great feeling, just feels like a ton of momentum, which is just honestly fantastic. Looks like we got a bunch of people jumping in here, so we can go ahead and start diving into. Oh, I got Sadiq in here. Okay, so funny enough, Sadiq is one of the guys I met in the hallway there at Miami Seller Conference. Live on X there. Let's get rich. Love it, Sadiq. Give this guy a follow. This guy is awesome, by the way. It was funny. I was driving back. I have a Model 3 Tesla. I was driving back from Miami to Jacksonville, and I had to stop and charge like 3 times. And every single time I would plug in, pull up X, and it's like 30 plus something notifications to go through. It was absolutely fantastic. See Debbie, hoping to see you at the Proven Conference. Hoping to see you as well. If you don't see us, tweet at me or something. We want to hang out. We'll come find you. Um, so it's absolutely fantastic. So as everybody's jumping in here, got a bunch of people. Again, this session, especially for the new people, this session is really a open-ended conversation where we can dive into whatever you'd like to. We can share our screens. We can show you how to do certain things. So if you're considering joining Aura and you have questions, ask those. If you recently joined Aura and you got questions, ask those. We can screen share exactly, hey, how do you do certain things? What are the best practices here? We can kind of go super in depth on the product. We can also go a little bit high level, just in terms of sourcing and being a seller as a whole. So, start to have those questions coming through. We got a lot of stuff we can cover, of course. In the meantime, we got a bunch of people jumping in. This is fantastic. This is that post-Miami excitement there. One thing I do want to highlight while we're waiting for these questions to come through is the recent blog post. So this is something I like kind of doing each week during this, is just share this previous week's blog post, right? So we publish every single Monday. If you've known me for 5 minutes, I'm slightly obsessed with the AI stuff. And this past week, I wanted to really share a few tools that are actually usable now, right? Not things that are, oh, this sounds great, but that doesn't add value. It sounds cool, but how does that help me, right? And so there's a few here. The first one is Perplexity. Now, actually, I did a lunch and learn. So every Thursday, we do a lunch and learn as a team. So one person on the team gets picked, and you have to teach the team something. It's totally open-ended. I went last week and basically shared all these more in-depth, talking about AI, robotics, where are things going with the team. I think I gave you guys a little bit of existential dread. Hopefully not. Hopefully, it's a very optimistic approach I have here. But one of the first ones here is called Perplexity. It's like a AI-based Google search, right? So instead of what you would usually do, which is type into search, click through all the links, try to find the answer yourself, this does all that searching through the links for you, comes back and directly just gives you the answer. So we can actually do that live here, which is pretty cool. So if I do, who are the founders of Aura Repricer? What's nice is it's actually going to do the search for us. Look, it's going through YouTube, LinkedIn, WellFound, a few others. And then based on this YouTube video, let's see here. Dylan Carter and James Yanuk. There we are. Nice. Yeah, so pretty cool, right? Way faster, which is amazing. And just a really good system. Lindy is another one, Lindy.ai. This is one I've been experimenting with lately. They're essentially trying to build AI-based employees. Oh, I'm already logged in. Hold on here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So they're building AI employees in the sense that you can jump in and just describe the task you want it to do, the preferences and stuff like that, and you have different triggers. So it's kind of like a Zapier, but like a non-rigid Zapier, right? So anybody can jump in and just explain, hey, when this happens, I want you to do this thing. So you're just using natural language. Really cool. Definitely early stages, but really cool stuff. And then another one called Mindy. This one's a little different here. So kind of similar to Mindy, you gotta love that. The difference though is Mindy's email based, right? So it's like interacting with the ChatGPT, but it's able to go, search the web and stuff. So what's nice is I can jump in here and say, hey, I'll be in Miami this weekend. Find me some restaurants that meet this criteria. I want to dine for 2 hours, and then go ahead and add it to my calendar with all the details. It can do that, which is pretty cool. Again, some of these things are really like useful and very unique situations, not always, but cool nonetheless, and very usable. I think Lindy costs money. Mindy is, I believe, free. I haven't been charged yet, so that's exciting. And then the last one here is something called the Rabbit R1. This is actually a piece of hardware, which is super incredible. It's $200. And what's nice about this is you can actually train it to use software. That's their whole thing, is like, not just we have to write integrations, but you can record your screen and say, hey, here's how you set a strategy in Aura. Here's how you enable repricing or hyperdrive in Aura for a listing. And it goes, okay, cool, I know how to do that now. And so now I can be anywhere, tap the little side button here to activate and say, hey, go ahead and enable repricing for all my SKUs with Nike in it. It knows how to search for all SKUs in Nike and how to, toggle on repricing. and so we can basically abstract all that away, which is the craziest thing. So I was able to pre-order one of these. It's funny, I was telling the team I've never pre-ordered anything in my entire life until I saw their keynote. And I was like, this is pretty cool. So the first thing I'm going to do, it should be here, shipping here soon, I think next 10, 15 days. First thing I'm doing is training it how to use Aura, which is
Very
just
cool.
going to, if it works, I don't know, right? We're still early days here. But if it works, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So very excited. Cool. So we got a bunch more people jumping in here. Again, go ahead and throw your questions in here, right? We can deep dive on Aura, specific features. We can talk pricing. We can talk about strategies, workflows, Hyperdrive, Maven, all that good stuff. We can also go a little bit more meta if we need to. If you have certain questions, like what are you struggling with? I think that's one thing I like to lean into here is, as a seller, what are you struggling with the most? Either, for repricing, in which case let's help there, or just as a seller, that could be sourcing and stuff too. While we're waiting on that, Casey, anything that's top of mind for you outside of your jury duty?
Well, nothing top of mind on jury duty anymore. That's for sure.
That's good.
But yeah, no specific topics or subjects come to mind. I've definitely been having a lot of new users come in over the last couple of weeks, which is really exciting to see. Hopefully we'll see some more of those users following the wave of the Miami conference there. But yeah, nothing top of mind. I know a lot of folks I guess one thing that has come up a little bit frequently is the upcoming fees. I believe they are going to be implemented in April 1st or 15th or whatever it may be. So definitely some questions, concern around that. But and I guess a lot of people are thinking about age of inventory as a potential trigger, potential, metric to track and use for things. So that seems to be where a lot of people are thinking right now. But outside of that, just a lot of setup, getting folks ready to go there.
Yeah. Fee changes are always very exciting. So Debbie's got a good question here. So I have a question about Hyperdrive. I haven't been using it up until now because I don't really understand how it works or on what products to set Hyperdrive to. You want to go ahead and explain Hyperdrive and kind of how we kind of set best practices for when and how to assign that?
Yeah. So in terms of Hyperdrive, when you're implementing or issuing rather a regular price change, that's going to be sent to Amazon anywhere from, I believe it's that 90-second to 2-minute window is their standard speed for a price update. Thanks to James and his whiz of coding ability, we were able to find a way to bypass that. So essentially submitting that price change to Amazon in 10 seconds or less than 10 seconds as opposed to that 2-minute mark. So essentially it just allows you to deploy those price changes faster than the competition. In terms of best practices for that, Debbie, there's a couple different ways to think about it. I typically recommend 2 specific areas. One, if you have a best-selling item or an item that tends to, be one of your best performing listings, it's always good to keep that edge over other competition there. So those would be good listings to use it on. And then secondly, any listing where you do have a lot of competition. It's not going to be as impactful if you're the only seller or one of maybe 2 or 3 total sellers on a listing, because you'll only be beating out 1 or 2 people. If there is a listing where there's 10, 15, upwards of that many sellers, Hyperdrive is going to be very impactful because you'll be able to beat the crowd with all of those pricing updates. So that's what Hyperdrive is in those typical scenarios where we recommend using it. And you do have a different allotment of Hyperdrive credits depending on your specific plan as well.
Yeah, and just to kind of touch base on that too, we actually wrote a blog post because what's funny is instant repricing is instant in our system. So when any company says, "Hey, we have instant repricing," that means they're not delaying you. If you're doing anything, longer than instant, then you're being basically penalized for not paying enough. That's essentially how that works. Now, instant really means what Casey was saying here is like by the time we submit it to Amazon, that was instant, but we still have to wait for 1.5 to 2 minutes for that to come back round trip for Amazon to be like, "Yep, that's confirmed, that's live, we're good here." So instant repricing really means 1.5 to 2 minutes on average. Now, Hyperdrive allows you to do that round trip, or allows us to do that round trip for you in less than 10 seconds. So you're talking about like a 12x increase in repricing speeds here, which is meaningful. So we have a whole, we're writing blog posts that are like really like to the point and informative without like berating it or belaboring the point. But if you want to understand exactly what repricing is in terms of like the instant and speed, we dive deeper into that here. But we cover the gist of it in this conversation, which is fantastic. But I just want to highlight exactly how that works because it is important. It can be kind of confusing, right? When we were naming hyperdrive, we're like, well, we have something that's technically faster than instant. What do I call that? We're like, I guess hyperdrive kind of makes the most sense. We're a bunch of dorks. So yeah, but great question, Debbie. See, Nick, another person was able to meet over in the Miami Seller Conference. Nick's amazing. So potentially waiting for BeCool subscription to end so I can switch over. Nick, don't feel like you have to wait for that. Reach out to our support team. Let them know, hey, I'm Nick. We're very much willing to work with you on that to make that an easier transition. I don't want you to have to wait to get that added performance and all that good stuff. And Casey is obviously going to be the one you're going to talk to, unless you're doing it right now, in which case it's Finn back there in the background. But yeah, don't feel like you have to wait. If anybody's looking to make a switch, please reach out. We're very flexible and happy to work with you. Again, my co-founder James and I have been sellers, and we use a lot of software actually ourselves. As a software company, use the most software actually. So sometimes there's cases where like, man, I just really want to make that migration, but like I kind of feel like I have to wait. You don't. We'll work with you. We'll make it happen. But yeah, Sadiq, Debbie, Nick, love having you guys on here. This is awesome. I like the fact that we met Saturday and you're already on live office hours. This is absolutely phenomenal for me. Any other questions you guys have about Aura, about even just repricing concepts, we're happy to dive deep into for you guys. But I'm curious, what was the highlight for you guys at the Miami Seller Conference? In terms of like who you met, what you learned. Would love to share that with the audience here. So one thing, was the support email. So you could just do support@goaura.com, or you can actually, if you're on the landing page right now, if you're on like /office hours, there's a blue button in the bottom right. Click that button. That's our live chat. You can actually use that. And actually here, I'll show you. I'll make it easier here. I realize I have it on my other screen right now. So anywhere you see this little blue button, go ahead and click on that. Hit messages, and then ask a question. And then you can see Finn's live right now, or if it's Casey, we'll see. Yeah, so you'll be able to reach out directly there. We don't do. I mean, you can definitely email us. We like live chat. We like to have real conversations here. Really don't love the whole like send an email, I'll check it in 24 hours. It's like we can get you sorted out in like 15, 20 minutes. So let's move a little faster, But great question there. Awesome. See Debbie here. Can you remind me where I find how many hyperdrive ASINs I have based on my plan? Casey, you want to go ahead and hit that one?
Yeah, so you can find that on the pricing or plans page. I believe it's goaura.com/pricing, if I'm remembering the URL correctly. But if you are on the essential plan, Debbie, that's going to be 10 listings can be on hyperdrive. Plus plan, our middle tier is going to be 25. And then the higher tier, the pro plan, is going to be 50. Amazon does limit us to maximizing it out at 50. So unfortunately, we can't quite step over those bounds yet. If they open that up in the future, I'm sure that'll be something we explore as a potential add-on, but that'll be the typical breakdown now. 10 hyperdrive credits for essential, 25 for plus, and then 50 for the pro plan there.
Yeah. And I added the correct plan page here. So if you're logged in, you go directly here, that's going to take you exactly to that plan. So we break down exactly your usage, all that good stuff too. One thing I would love to highlight here as well is early stage. So we're really going public with this now. So I'm pumped to start sharing this more with everyone. So it's /early stage. This is only for new people. So if you're already using Aura, it's not really applied for you. But we found that a lot of newer sellers were stuck in this weird gap where they wanted Aura, they wanted that kind of performance and functionality and quality of product, but the 97 was a little steep for a new seller, which totally makes sense. Or even normal sellers, like regular average Joe sellers, wanted access to cutting edge technology like AI based models and stuff like that, which costs a lot of money, right? Like it's a very premium feature. And so what we did is we said, well, let's go ahead and design a program that if you qualify, you get access to all that stuff. You get access to the same things that a seller doing $1 million a month has access to, just limited capacity, because you don't need that much, right? So we developed something called the early stage program. It's up to 12 months. So you have to apply for this. So if you apply, you have to be, to qualify, you have to be a first-time Aura user and doing less than 10 grand a month in sales over the last 2 months on average. If you hit that, awesome. Basically what we're going to say is for up to 12 months, you get to use Aura for $27 a month. Not 97, $27 a month for up to 12 months. And if you don't go above 10K, great. There's no time pressure. There's no, I got to figure this out in 3 months. No, so it takes time. That's fine. But if you do, let's say you come in, you crush it, you're on month 3 of the 12 months and you blow past the 10K, fantastic. What we're going to do for you then is we're essentially going to give you a 50% discount on the first 3 months of the next tier you're going into, that you grew into, or that you just voluntarily went into. Sometimes you're like, hey, I just want to jump in. I want more hyperdrive credits, right? More AI listings. Perfect. We'll go ahead and smooth that out for you. We got hundreds upon hundreds of users already on this during the beta phase, which is so crazy to think about when we were in stealth. But this is applicable right now. So it's goaura.com/early stage. Again, you're getting basically, not even basically, you're literally getting access to the cutting edge advanced features like Maven, Hyperdrive. It works on your phone, everything for $27 a month for up to 12 months, which is absolutely incredible. We'll still onboard you. Here's what's great. You still get our support. It's not like, hey, you can't talk to us. No, you still get support. You still get help. If you're getting started, not a problem. We got you covered here. Trust me, we've been in this game long enough to know that some people can jump in, hit the ground running in 10 minutes, and never talk to us. Others need a little bit more hand holding. Great. We're here to hold that hand. We got you covered here. One thing I love highlighting, and I kind of just did that, is that you can use Aura on your phone. This is a live account here. Right, there's real data. You even got, so, oh, look, office hours are happening right now. Imagine that, right? Everything comes together. You even have support that I showed you guys earlier. So what's nice is no matter where, if you're at, the Miami Seller Conference and you forgot to bring your laptop and you got things you need to get done, great, take out your phone, get it done. So just wanted to highlight that. But yeah, we're very proud of the early stage program. I talked to a handful of people actually at the Miami Seller Conference that were just grateful because they fit that mold. They're like, awesome. Like I can use this now. I don't have to go this other route to eventually come to you guys anyways, which is absolutely just phenomenal. So we're incredibly grateful for all the great feedback for this. Let's see, Jason here. Any plans to bring back the daily 1 cent reprice on all items? We have a lot of listings where we only compete with one other FBA seller. When they run out of inventory, our price is stuck low because there is no price change reporting coming from Amazon to trigger us to go back up. Thanks. Okay, so Jason's talking about what we called in the legacy system the 3-hour trigger. So this actually happens essentially every 3 hours that we do not have an organic price change. We'll raise the price up by a penny and bring it back down. The new 1.0 system actually does not require that because we always keep the most recent stuff. However, if you do want to trigger things like that, I would recommend using a workflow. So I would actually create a workflow that would have a time of day that could be once a day at midnight. And you could just say pause repricing, raise my price by 1 penny, and then do that for, let's say, hold it for 20 minutes and then have it go back to normal. You can definitely do that. I will say it depends though on if you're using the rule-based strategies or if you're using Maven. Maven, I probably wouldn't do that as often because you still have that optimal price that Maven's calculating whether there's competition or not. So I would say Maven's gonna be way more flexible in handling these kind of situations than your rule-based wills. But if you're using rule-based, fantastic. I would probably create that workflow and just filter it down to listings that are only using the rule-based strategy. So if you got 20% using rule-based, 80% using Maven, I'm going to go ahead and create a workflow that first says only for that 20%, here's what I want to do. Everything else, leave it alone. So again, you got a lot of control there. But Casey, anything you want to add to that?
No, I was going to recommend a workflow as well. So definitely nailed that there. Also, Jason, if you want, I have a lot of folks that will set their price to their max price during that pause instead of just 1 penny, just to kind of fully refresh that listing, make sure it doesn't get stale. But that is completely up to you. Yeah, whether it's 1 penny, a few dollars going to that max, you do have a couple different options there, but that's what I would recommend as well. Have a pause repricing workflow set up just to make sure that doesn't happen to any of those listings there.
Yeah, great point. Nice. And also, if anybody hasn't, if you're a brand new user and you're like, man, I wish they had this, great, go ahead and let us know, right? And by the way, a lot of our users have the same ideas, which is phenomenal. So you can go to feedback.goaura.com. It'll automatically recognize you, log you in, everything. And you can just search for feature requests and you can upvote them. You can add comments to it. You can add your own ideas if you don't see it already there. We want to hear these things. Every Thursday, so tomorrow, we sit down as a team and we go through all these and say, great, what are the most impactful things we could build next? That's what we work on. And what's nice is like, it's not just what we think we should work on. It's a combination of that plus direct feedback from our users, which is phenomenal. So definitely check that out. And if you, I know we have a bunch of new people here, so I'm covering some of the base level stuff here. You can also go to help.goaura.com if you want to search for support documentation, anything like that. That chat that I mentioned, the blue circle, also has that integrated, so you can actually just search right there as well. See, I think we got some extra questions in here. Jason, you're very welcome. See, Debbie, I currently only use only rule-based strategies. How do you recommend I start using Maven? And how would I see the difference between the rule-based and Maven strategies? Casey, go ahead.
Yeah, so in regards to the difference between rules-based and Maven there, Debbie, when you set up a rules-based strategy, it's very rigid in the sense of, hey, this is my competition. This is how I want to reprice against the competition in these specific scenarios. And that's how Aura is going to operate, reacting to those price changes. Maven is a little bit different. Obviously, it's an AI strategy, but differing from like the buy box targeting strategy and other things like that, its main focus is finding the best price for a combination of sales velocity and profit margin. So trying to find that optimal price there. In terms of like listings I would recommend using it on, if you are trying to potentially liquidate or move items quickly, I would not necessarily recommend Maven. It does take a little bit of time to kind of learn about a specific listing, see how the sellers on that listing are competing with your prices and that pricing activity. But you will see Maven test different price points when you assign it to a listing. It'll perhaps first go high, seeing if it can focus on that margin. And then if sales get to be what it considers to be too slow, it'll adjust back down, trying to find that price there. So you will see it kind of test different price points. That's like the very basic explanation in terms of how it typically reacts to different pricing activities. Rather, if it sees one seller is continually underpricing or undercutting your price, it's going to recognize that and hold at a specific price or try to match their price so it doesn't tank the price of the whole listing. It's going to up or increase the price and opportunities wherever it can. So it really will be intelligent and collect more data on specific sellers on a listing and the listing as a whole, the longer it is active. So I recommend trying it out on a handful of listings. If you have some listings that maybe aren't necessarily your most important listings, maybe try it on those first, see how it reacts, and then you can apply it to more and more listings as you go on. And one thing to note, I know a lot of folks will set their minimum price using ROI or margins in Aura, specifically on those rules-based strategies. I recommend having that min ROI for Maven be perhaps a little bit lower. If you have it set to 20, 15, 10, even 0%, it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to go to that price. That's just the window that it can operate in. And the larger window or range that it can try to find that optimal price is going to be more advantageous for you. So that's at a very high level, the explanation of difference between rules-based and Maven strategies. We do also have a help article that will dive deeper into Maven's logic in specific scenarios. So I believe there's only 2 or 3 articles with Maven in the title. So if you go to the help docs, type in Maven, should be one of the first articles that come up for you.
Yeah, great analysis there. What I would say to add on to that is when you're making the transition from rule-based to Maven, I tend to say pick a percentage of your listings that you feel comfortable starting with. Start there. Things go well, double it. Things go well again, double it again. Eventually you get to 100% very quickly. So that could be 10%, 25%. I would say 25 is probably a good barometer to get started. But Casey, I'm glad you brought this up. Is like a lot of people transition very heavily or very quickly from rule-based to Maven, and they leave that minimum ROI as the exact same. And when they do it, they're like, oh, well, I expected more performance. Yes, but the thing you got to keep in mind is that by like rule base is very like to the point, right? It's very first order. You know, this thing happened, therefore I reacted to it. Maven is more strategic. And so it's not just, you know, my competition did this, therefore I did that. It goes, well, okay, you did this, I did that because I know you're going to do this thing after. So this second, third order kind of perspective. And so with that, you really want to give an AI model the range to do what it needs to get done, right? What we don't want to do is take a model and put a bunch of restrictions on it, because that's very quickly how you basically remove any performance. And so what I tend to recommend is if you're setting your minimum ROI at 20% ROI, with rule base, consider dropping that down, 50 to 100%, right? Not 100%, sorry, 25 to 50%. So you might cut that in half, right? So it might go from 20% to 15, see how that goes. I might go from 20 to 10, see how that goes. We have tested doing 100% zero ROI on an entire account. Worked out really well. It was absolutely bonkers. It was like, hey, let's experiment, let's see what happens. Again, a lot of other AI systems will basically go to your min price. So you wouldn't want to do that in other repricing tools. Ours is not designed to do that. So there's less problems. Now, what I will say though is if you have a price, or if you have a product where the market is at 5% of your ROI, that's where it's going to go, right? Because that's just where the market's at. Now we're going to consistently try to recover that, pull it back up higher. That doesn't guarantee that you're going to get sales strictly at that price. If you look on Twitter or X, as they're now calling it, which I haven't made that transition yet, you'll see a lot of people say, hey, look, I got a sale at $60 30 minutes ago, and I got a sale at 90 just now for that same SKU. So it's very likely that you will see, and I talked to a bunch of people actually in Miami in person saying the exact same thing. Like I'm used to seeing prices higher than the buy box. So give that a shot. I would say like, don't put 100% of your listings on Maven and then put your ROI at 0%. Not that that's going to be horrible. It's just like, we like to be slightly conservative with your businesses. So we want to think about how do we help you transition in a way that is comfortable, so that if anything were to pop up, we can deal with that in a very, controlled way. We just like to be conservative. We care very greatly about our users, so we're not going to tell you to do anything crazy here. So, see, Debbie, you're very welcome. Debbie, get a little follow up here. Yeah, that's what's happened to me the first time I tried to use Maven, and I was expecting more. So then I moved everything all back to role based. Yep, that's exactly it. Yep. See, what's funny is we do this so often that we already know the patterns. So yeah, Debbie, exactly what we're saying. I would consider lowering that minimum ROI. That's going to boost that performance up for you really well. It's kind of interesting, Casey, how a lot of the things we do is very counterintuitive. You're just like, oh, you would expect if you had a 0% ROI minimum that things would be horrible. And in reality, that's not the case, because the model's not designed to do that. Again, this is why we keep highlighting the fact that Maven's designed to find the balance between sales velocity and profitability. It's not biased on either which way, right? Mm-hmm. And so you actually can't liquidate with Maven. It's not designed to do that. So what you were saying earlier, Casey, about if you're looking to liquidate something and move it really fast, in other words, you want less profitability, more velocity, I would go rule-based for now until we have a model that makes sense for doing that. So it's just kind of interesting how a lot of what we do is like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense, but it works. Welcome to Amazon. I feel like everything is that way, right? You're just like, okay, it doesn't make sense, but here we are. Let's roll with it, It's kind of one of the fun parts of building something that's truly unique and very new.
Yeah, and one way I kind of like to think about it is, being the big movie nerd that I am, I think of rules-based being black and white movies, and Maven operates in color. It's going to fill in all the blanks. It's going to look at much more information. So takes into account lots of different factors that rules-based don't even know to look for, because it's just very rigid in that sense.
Maven's like watching Interstellar in IMAX.
Yes. Great analogy. Great analogy.
Yeah, that's what it feels like there. At least for me, when we first started alpha and beta testing it, it's just like, oh my God, like, what is this? It's pretty exciting. It's wonderful when we watch users make the transition in real time, like we're live streaming with them or whatever. We're doing an onboarding session, and then they make a thing, and then like they're like, oh crap, things are selling like higher than I thought. Like, what the heck's happening? It's like, yeah, or just like, the day later, they're like, I had my best sales day. Margins are amazing. What the heck did you guys do? Great question. That's the hard part about AI, right? It's like I can share some things, but some things are kind of black box, right? Some things are like it's making its own decisions, and
Mhm.
there's something special to that. So it's funny that sometimes with well, not all the time with rule based. If you're like, why did this happen? I can tell you exactly why, right? Because I can look at your strategy. There's the algorithm. That's the steps involved. AI is way different. Maven is so much more complex. And this is why we wanted to give it a name, not just be like it's our AI strategy. It's like no, it's Maven. Like there's something deeper here. And funny enough, we use ChatGPT to help us name it because we had all this idea of like, okay, well, here's kind of what it represents, how it works, right? This balance, optimal price, all these things, and we landed on Maven essentially because it's like a protector. Like that word stems from some kind of version of like protecting things. And I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. Like it can be aggressive when it needs to, but it's also protective of your profits, which is why you're seeing, prices go from 60 to 90 in 30 minutes and getting sales. That's pretty impressive. That sounds like you're pretty protected. You know what I mean? It's like you probably don't sleep really well at night as a seller until you start seeing, sales above the buy box. You're like, yeah, we're going to be fine here. It's going to be good. Nice. So keep those questions coming. There's a lot we certainly haven't covered, but any questions anybody has, again, I know we have a lot of new people here. So if you're looking to make the switch and you have certain questions about how certain things work, please ask. We want this to be comfortable. If you're like, hey, how long is the onboarding session going to take? If you schedule one, because we do one-on-one onboarding session, that's 20 minutes. If it's like, hey, I just want to jump in and get up and running in 10 minutes by myself, perfect. That's the default path, actually. So we can have you up and running really, really fast here. Or if you're new to using Aura and you just have some questions about how certain features work or best practices or certain settings, please ask those. We really, really love diving deep into these things.
And Finn and I are also working on providing more video content for you folks, specifically in those help articles, so you can get a little bit of a visual with the written explanations in those. So those will be coming soon. I know Finn's calendar has been booking up quickly with those onboarding calls, so trying to provide you folks with some more video content to get you up and running in the meantime. But yeah, Finn, I was on an onboarding call with him the other day, and the person asked, "How long have you been doing this?" And Finn said, "Probably about 20% of my life because I'm 24 years old, been doing this for 5 years." So
Oh,
yeah,
that's
he's
crazy.
quite an expert in the space. So yeah,
I
definitely
love that.
recommend booking time with him to help get set up there.
That's funny. I never thought about that. I realized the other day I've spent a third of my life in the Amazon space in some way, shape, or form, but didn't think about Finn. Yeah, that's so funny. But yeah, we're doing a lot more like video based stuff. So I'm not done yet. I'm in the middle of building out like this little background studio thing. It lights up here, which are not here yet. That's this evening. But we're trying to basically like, create as much educational, useful content as possible to help our users succeed. There's a lot of companies that all they're gonna do is sell to you, and honestly, that sounds boring. We're not very salesy, so like I'd rather teach you. I like the whole like teach a man to fish versus give a man to fish kind of philosophy. And it's also like the karma approach. I think that's something we've always leaned into as a company is like, hey, like, I don't need to necessarily see the ROI on this immediately, but like, this is the right thing to do. Let's just do that. And like, we're if our karmic bank account keeps growing, I'm super happy with that. So whatever we got to do, I was talking to a few people at the Miami Seller Conference, and they're like, "Oh, like what do I have to do to basically like earn or qualify for an onboarding session?" I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Nothing." So I like, they're like, "Well, what tier?" All of them. We don't even look, right, Casey? Casey's not like, "Oh, what tier are you on? Do you qualify?" No, we don't even care. We don't care if you started a trial 10 minutes ago and you're like, "I'd love to do that." Perfect. And guess what? If we can't get to you for 4 or 5 days, we'll reset your trial on that day we get to see you because we want you to get the full experience, the full 14-day free, ungated, non card requiring trial. We want it to make sense. We want you to see the value because ultimately that's why people become fanatics of Aura. I got to meet a handful of these in Miami. I was like, wow. I like to think people are fanatic, but it's nice to see it in person. People get really, really jazzed. I'm so sorry I didn't have enough t-shirts. I've got a laundry list of t-shirts to send people. But yeah, so for us, we really don't care how big or small of a seller you are. It's all the same to us, right? You're an Aura user first and foremost, and that's really all that matters. But yeah, Finn's been doing a lot more onboardings. I'll say that.
Yeah, we'll have to revisit the possibility of getting a Shopify store up and running for those t-shirts.
I know. I was just thinking about it. So Debbie had a follow up here. I have to say that I really appreciate the time you give clients. Dylan, you spent about an hour with me last time I needed help. So kudos. Oh, cool. Yeah, I remember doing that actually. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like if I, as one of the founders, need to jump in with you, I'm gonna do it. I've got a few people that I'm personally onboarding from the weekend that were like, "Oh, I'm not sure." I was like, "Look, I'll personally do it. Don't worry about it." We already got that relationship built out here. Like, got you covered. But yeah, I think this just highlights how we've approached our building our customer. We don't even call it really support. Like, it's like our customer success team, which is like Finn and Casey. It's like 70 to 80% of our inbound requests are just automatically handled without us ever seeing them, because it's pretty straightforward. What's pricing? Here it is, right? But that frees us up as a small team of 6 going on 7 to really be hands-on and patient in a way where for the users who really need us to go in depth with them to really explain things in different kinds of ways and have an extended conversation. We're able to do that in real time, which is like I love going to other companies and testing their support and just seeing it. And they're like, "Oh, typically responds in 48 hours." I'm like, "Ours says 10 minutes." Like, what do you mean 48 hours? How does that even remotely make sense? Especially if it's live chat, right? I'm just like, then why have live chat? Just email me at that point. As like, if the whole nother day goes by, I'm not going to sit here and look at your live chat, right? But sometimes a live chat makes sense in that it's super fast and easy and it's a simple conversation. Other times we need to jump into a Zoom call to figure things out with you. Great, we're going to do that. So as hands-on as we need to be, we're going to be, and as hands-off as you'd like us to be, we can be hands-off too. I'm that person where I'm like, just let me in and let me play around, figure it out. Great, we're not going to get in your way either. So we approach this very, very intentionally is the term that I'll use. Nice. So keep those questions coming. We got a good roll here. I like this. Debbie's going ham in the chat. I like it. Debbie's wonderful. I'm hoping that the anxiety of all these fee changes are not eating at your soul. What's the quote? It's like the 2 things you can always count on is death and taxes.
Yep.
I'm gonna add a third, and Amazon fee increases. That's my. I'm gonna make a Twitter post today. Actually, that's a good one. The 3 things you can count on is death, taxes, and Amazon fee increases. Watch me go viral. This is gonna be good.
Yeah, they just keep tacking things on. I was chatting with some folks that were seeing different fees in Aura than were online, and Amazon's fee calculator is not even completely accurate in scenarios. So yeah, it's almost as if they don't even know what their own fees are.
Yeah, that's the thing we try to highlight with users, right? It's like you're not talking about one. There's not one price. There's 5 things that are supposed to be the one price, and those systems update at different periods of time too. So it's like even that can be incredibly overwhelming and confusing. So yeah, I'm glad these are not at 3 a.m. for you as well. That's good. Yeah, definitely rough when that is the case here. See Jonathan Lyman, my man, King, my guy. Come on, we need to have you jump on here. So for those of you who don't know, Jonathan and I think we only did 1 podcast episode of the Welcome to Growth podcast. Maybe 2 episodes. I don't know. It was at least 1, but maybe 2. I forget exactly how many it was, but yeah, Jonathan is fantastic. His blog, by the way, is incredible. Yeah, sellerjournal.com. Jonathan puts it in chat here, and I'll get it shared with everyone. He's been raking up the SEO. That's for sure. See, Nick, thanks so much for all the info, Dylan. I'm going to get my trial and call set up. Love to hear that. See, that's how fast it can be, right? That simple, that easy. It doesn't have to be complex. We can move super, super fast. Pleasure speaking with you in Miami as well. We got to geek out a few times, so that was awesome. We did 34 episodes of Welcome to Growth and recorded a couple of restock that never. Oh, that's right. That's right. See, this is like 5 years old. So we did a lot of Welcome to Growth. It was the restock one that we did a few of. That's right. That's right. I forget that when we recorded the welcome or the Wholesale Made Easy podcast, we did 54, 55 episodes and capped it because we hit all the evergreen stuff. That's what we wanted it to be. And we're still getting hundreds, if not thousands of downloads every single day. Like, we haven't touched that in 4-ish years, maybe 5 at this point, which is just dumbfounding to me. So it's good. I like how we're approaching content, which is very like evergreen foundational stuff, not just a bunch of the short-term tactics, because those are important, but only for the short term, right? We want the real deep, the deep stuff to really move the needle for our users, right? Like what things matter here. And then because like tactics are the little pebbles that sit on top of the foundation. They're cool, they're fun, they're sexy, but like they don't, it's a small amplification, right? If you multiply anything by 0, it's still 0. So we try to hit a lot of that stuff. Rachel, thank you. That's sweet. That's really kind. Thank you. Nice. Jonathan, make sure you throw in the actual URL for the blog. I want to get that shared too. I just want to make sure I'm getting the correct one here. I see we got a handful of minutes here, so keep those questions coming. Definitely want to make sure that we're hitting everything that people have, all the questions, all that good stuff. And if I'm not mistaken, dope. Yeah, solarjournal.com. I just want to make sure you didn't go to like a .xyz kind of domain. Nerd. No, I'm just kidding. Jonathan's awesome. Tech guy. So we like to geek out. We played around with starting like a tech-based fun podcast. Just never did. That's the issue of things growing relatively fast. You run out of time, which is really... Oh, Jonathan. Yeah, that's your new rerouted domain. Love you. If you can't have fun, what are you doing? You know. Welcome to the seller community and the tech community where you get roasted on the daily. No, honestly though, like check out Jonathan's blog. There's a lot of amazing stuff there. He's got a lot of like resources and stuff like that too. So a lot of good stuff. Highly recommended. But yeah, so we got a handful of questions or a handful of minutes left over here. So again, keep those questions coming. Again, we're able to screen share, show you exactly how to do certain things in Aura. We can go a little bit more meta as a seller as well. Would love to get some feedback on this background that I'm building out because I wasn't quite sold on it. And then the team said it was coming together. So that made me feel good. We're slowly making progress here. See, Rita, great question here. One question, Maven does compete with Amazon, correct? Casey, you want to hit that?
Yeah, so in that case, Rita, Maven will recognize Amazon as the seller, and they will compete against them just like any other seller, kind of taking into account their pricing behavior, whether they're matching price, undercutting, and then Maven, like I mentioned earlier, is going to always increase the price when it finds the opportunity to do so. So yeah, it'll definitely compete with Amazon there, treating it almost as if it's a normal seller, focusing more so on its pricing activity as opposed to just focusing on it as Amazon as a whole there.
Yeah, one thing I would like to highlight whenever I'm asked, like, how does Maven compete against Amazon? Is it good or bad? I like to say that you can never answer that question that simply because it depends on Amazon on that listing. So where Amazon is playing nicely and being cooperative, yeah, not a problem at all. But there are listings where Amazon, no matter what you do, Amazon's not giving up the buy box. My theory is that they just have so much inventory themselves they need to move through for capital. In those cases, it really doesn't matter what you're using, right? You could use time travel and it's not going to work, right? Like at the end of the day, we have to keep in mind that it is Amazon's home. It's their game. We have to play by their rules, and sometimes their rules are in their favor, and that's okay. It happens. But I would say, in scenarios where Amazon is cooperating or allowing us to compete as a seller, Maven's going to do incredibly well for you. So that's something I wouldn't really worry about. But again, got to test. It really just depends. What's nice is Maven's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. That rule based, you might have to have 4, 5, 6 different strategies that you're having to manipulate around. Maven's able to basically abstract all that away. You have one version of Maven, and it's doing all this testing for you. Because on some listings, like I mentioned, Amazon's going to compete. You can match and rotate buy box. On the other end of the spectrum, they're not going to let you compete, period. They're just going to own it no matter what. Everything in between is also on the table. So there are cases where sometimes you need to be 20 cents below the buy box against Amazon to pull it. Sometimes it's $5. Maven's actually going to test those things to understand what actually needs to be done here. So it's only in cases where Amazon's just like, I don't care what you do, it's my buy box. That's when I would be like, well, you can't do anything anyway. So, different story. But for the most part, everything on the other end and in between of that spectrum, Maven's going to do pretty well with you. But great question. Very welcome. Awesome. So again, keep those questions coming. Otherwise, I'm going to have to pick on Jonathan for the remainder of the time we have. I'm just kidding. I can't pick on him. He's too cool. I will say, I know we talked about this at the beginning of the year, but it feels like 2024 is already blazing by, which is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, one thing I was going to say, I know at the beginning of the year, people were asking about, stock advice, when to restock certain things. And I was about to say, it's March, might be a good time to start stocking up on some summer stuff. People are going to be starting to look at, those beach floaties, those beach toys for the kids, those rafts, all sorts of stuff like that. I got a little 9-month-old nephew. I'm trying to get him little floaties and all that stuff. So yeah, it's definitely a good time to start looking at some of those more seasonal items potentially.
Yeah. Honestly, go ahead and start getting ready for Q4 because that's going to come by in a blink of an eye. Or I'm just getting old. I'm not sure yet. I've been told growing up, as you get older, time goes by faster. I'm like, does that mean I'm getting older? I don't know how to feel about that. It's funny when you hear these things when you're young. You're like, that sounds funny. And then you start to feel those. You're like, oh, no, it's here. It's happening. Horrible. Awesome. So we got a handful of minutes here, and then we'll start to wrap up for time. But again, bring those last few questions here that we can dive deep into. Happy to discuss anything that is top of mind for anybody on the call. And by the way, there's tons of people here today, which is fantastic. A lot of new people, it seems, which is awesome, as well as, obviously current users. I know Debbie and Rita's been with us for a while. So very exciting. It's awesome. Thank you guys for joining. Debbie, you did not have to validate my emotions here. I love it. That's good. Awesome. We'll give it a few more minutes here for some last minute questions, and then we will call it a wonderful day. It's funny. I'm watching my voice want to go out again after Miami. It happened so fast. It was absolutely crazy. See, Rita, you guys are the best. No, Rita, you are the best. And Debbie, and Jonathan, and Nick, and Sadiq, and Jason. Did I miss anybody in here so far? And Rachel, obviously Rachel. Awesome. Cool. Well, Casey, anything you want to leave this on? Any last minute things you want to dive deep into? We got a handful of minutes here. We can do so.
Yeah, nothing really comes top of mind. I know I mentioned those fees that are upcoming, and if there's any, I know Dylan tagged the feature requests section. If there's anything that's top of mind for you folks that we didn't cover on the call today, or maybe you're getting into the platform and you're like, hey, this is how it's currently done. Maybe slight tweak or a slight improvement here would make a big difference. Let us know. It is kind of a community-based feedback loop. So if you're looking for something and it's already been posted, you can upvote that. And as things gather more votes, it's going to help us prioritize updates that are going to make the biggest impact for you folks. So yeah, nothing top of mind, but please keep us honest. Make sure that we're continuing to provide the best product to you guys as possible. And we're happy to keep that feedback loop open there.
Yeah. Francois is also calling me old. No, I love this. This is fantastic. Francois, it's good to see you in here. Awesome. So with that, again, we do this every single week, every Wednesday, from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. EST. We are live in here for an hour, just having these kinds of discussions. We can go anywhere in the sphere. Great last minute question here, Nick. Where can I find the blogs? GoAura.com/blog. And I think I have this queued up as a banner here. I don't, but I'll get you sorted out. Here we go. So GoAura.com/blog. So every Monday, roughly, so every week we release a new blog post. We have a lot of amazing stuff already there, by the way. So if you want to understand how to set mins and maxes correctly, we have a blog post on that. If you want to understand how to network as a seller, I break exactly how to do that down. We go really in depth. We don't really write fluffy stuff. It's like things that really truly add value. Some things are shorter, some things are longer, but it's less about the SEO and more about like what value can we give you, our users, and our potential users. I would say go through there. There's a ton of amazing stuff there. But yeah, we write that every single week. So GoAura.com/blog. Awesome. So with that, we're going to let you guys get back to the rest of your week. Again, if you have any questions, if you get stuck anywhere, this is not the only channel to get help, right? We have that blue dot in the bottom right of of any web page, even on the blog. Ask us questions. Please never feel like you're bugging us or annoying us. This is why we are here. We are here to answer your questions. We're here to serve you guys. We want you to feel supported. We want you to feel empowered. Like whatever you need from us, you got it. So if you got 30 minutes of work in app that you need to get done and you only have 10 minutes, I would rather you spend the 10 minutes explaining it to our team so we can do it for you in 5. We do this every single day. If you haven't received an onboarding session or you're considering coming over to Aura from another tool, please also reach out to support and say, hey, I just created my trial. I'd like to do an onboarding session. They're roughly 20 minutes. We are doing a ton of these, so it might take a few days for us to get something scheduled with you, but we're opening up more slots every single day. But we want to make sure that you're getting started in the right way and that you're leaving that session actually repricing with the best settings, following the best practices, and all your questions answered. So you're going to go from feeling maybe overwhelmed in some cases, like I was when I got started with repricing, to 20 minutes later, you feel like a power user and you just feel good and confident about what's happening. So please take us up on that. But with that, let you guys get back to the rest of your day. Have a good one.
Adios, folks.